So before we jump into kind of the top 10 tips then, I just thought it was good to touch on, what do I mean by effective? So it's really important to be effective, and that goes for whatever you do, whether that's, Scrum Mastery, being a florist, being a nurse, you've got to be effective. So the definition of effective is to be successful in producing a desired or intended result. And for us, that desired or intended result is value, yeah? So that's what Scrum teams, software development teams are there to do. We're there to produce value for the end customer, ultimately. So according to the Scrum Guide, the Scrum Master is accountable for the Scrum team's effectiveness. So really important. So we play a really important role. That's our accountability, the Scrum team's effectiveness. And without an effective Scrum team, value delivery is at risk. So really important to be effective as Scrum Masters. Because it all kind of leads back to that value at the end of the day. So just in terms of these tips, I'm sharing them today. I believe doing these things helps me to be a more effective Scrum Master. So, that's kind of why I'm sharing them, and hopefully they will inspire or help people. So they're in no particular order. So, it's not the first one that, I like the best or use the most or anything. There's no order to them. And they're not facts, so these are my tips, things that have worked for me with numerous different teams over the years. So you might agree with them, brilliant. You might disagree as well, and that's absolutely fine. You might have tried some of these things and thought didn't work for us, wasn't for our team, and that's absolutely fine. And I know we've got the Q&A session at the end, so it'd be great to understand what people think, and obviously if people disagree, or if people have got any tips as well that they want to share back, it'd be great. So we'll start with number one then. Don't be a Scrum mum. And anyone who's kind of got me on LinkedIn or YouTube will have heard me talk about this concept of being a Scrum mum quite a lot. So you've got to let your kid fall, okay? So, any parents out there know kids kind of riding a bike, learning to ride a bike, you've got to let them fall, yeah? You've got to let them learn to balance themselves, make those mistakes so that they can learn ultimately to be effective at riding a bike. And it's exactly the same with the Scrum team, yeah? So you've got to let them fall, we've got to let them fail. We can't be that Scrum mum who's always there kind of running alongside the bike, ready for them, ready to catch them as they come off. You've got to let them fail, and that's how the Scrum team will learn, and that's how the Scrum team will become effective. So, big misconception around Scrum Masters, we are impediment removers. The amount of job adverts that I see out there saying, Scrum Master needed, come and work with our teams to remove impediments. So, we should only be removing impediments that the team cannot remove themselves. So we should be giving the team every chance. We can coach them, guide them, but, they should be the people removing those impediments. We shouldn't be kind of mummying the team. Because then we are stopping that team becoming effective, and actually we become an impediment then. Yeah. So if we're constantly mummying the team, looking out for them too much, stopping things before they happen, seeing things before they get to the team, and playing that mum role, we are the impediment then, because that team will not become effective. That team will rely on you constantly to remove those impediments for them, and they won't get to that, self-managing, self-organizing state that obviously we want them to get to. So I guess just to put this into context and give some real life examples. So these are just some things that you might catch yourself doing if you're doing the Scrum mum thing, I guess. So 3 examples. So, so the team can't run a Scrum event without you. Or even worse, when you're on leave, you're on annual leave as a Scrum Master, we're all humans, we need some holiday. You're actually moving the Scrum events to when you get back. So you might have sprint planning, think I'm on holiday that day, I'll just move that to when I'm back so I can facilitate it for the team. You're not doing them any favours. So that the Scrum team, it's their product, it's their events. They should be able to do this stuff without you. Especially things like the daily Scrum, that's for the developers, we know. The review should be led by the product owner anyway. But even things like sprint planning, if you're not around, the Scrum team should be able to pick these things up. So, if you're doing that top one, let the team do it. Let them become effective at running their own events. So another one that I still do catch myself doing, I have to tell myself off for it, is asking techies how to phrase something on an email. So you might be a technical Scrum Master, with that background, fantastic. I don't have that background. Certainly learnt the lingo over the years. But once the techies really do start, getting into techie talk, can be quite difficult to understand that. So If you catch yourself kind of saying, how should I phrase that technically, to for example, a tech lead. So, a technical lead might need to speak to another developer, maybe outside the squad, yeah. And they're kind of saying, oh, can you just go ask that developer who sits over in support, how we do this, and this is how you need to phrase that technically. And you're kind of having that conversation, that middle ground. But actually what you need to be saying is to that technical lead, go have that conversation yourself, right? So yes, you're not, they're not within our direct squad, but I'm not the scrum mum, so I'm not going to do this stuff for you. You need to go, get out your comfort zone, go speak to other teams outside your squad and get that information. You're the best person to do it. You're the brains behind the technical stuff. So it's just coaching people to do that and watching for, I guess, when you're doing it. And the other one is filling awkward silences. So something, I used to do quite a lot, originally. So before, it maybe 5-10 seconds, and I'd feel that awkward silence, and I'd think, right, Scrum Master, I must fill this silence. It's feeling awkward. We don't want these awkward silences. I must speak as a Scrum Master and suggest an idea or a way forward. But actually, that awkward silence, it needs to be filled with that collective intelligence of the group. And we are working in, software development and tech. I certainly am. I can't speak for everyone on the call. So it's complex stuff, and we don't think of things, super quick all the time. So don't be afraid of awkward silences. Let them run. These days I'll let them run for 30 seconds a minute. And believe me, they will be filled. Yeah. So don't kind of play that scrum mum role and try and pick up that awkward silence and sort the answers out for the team. Let the team do that for themselves and give them the time to do it. So they're just kind of 3 things that you might catch yourself doing, and there's tons more of these in terms of mumming your team. But I'm going to go through these kind of top tips relatively quickly, because I know I've only got, I think, 45 minutes roughly.